You can get that out. Sure. Richard. Yeah.
Good afternoon. How good and pleasant is it when God's people live together in unity? That was the scripture 17-year-old Martha Odom shared on social media just days ago, shortly before she lost her life in yesterday's shooting at the Mall of Louisiana. Let me repeat that one more time. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Martha's powerful words should do just that, unite this community. Yesterday, we saw the worst and the best of Baton Rouge. Our community was affected by a senseless act of violence that resulted in the loss of a precious 17-year-old and the wounding of several others. But on our worst day, our heroes showed up with their best. Our Baton Rouge police officers and East Baton Rouge sheriff's officers ran into gunfire and risked their lives in the process of saving countless others. Overall, we saw the very best of our law enforcement officers, first responders, and emergency personnel. Within minutes, the full presence of our local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies descended on the Mall of Louisiana, quickly securing the scene and escorting people to safety. Almost immediately, law enforcement officials were able to begin identifying the suspects using security, camera footage, and other investigative tools. Within hours, multiple suspects were identified, apprehended, and brought in for questioning. Today, we continue to pray for the victims and their families. I have reached out to several of the victims and families to offer my prayers and condolences. This morning, members of my staff spoke with officials of the Capital Area Human Services, which is working to coordinate mental health services among local partners to provide counseling and other mental health support for those who are affected by this tragedy. Also last night, I spoke to Mayor President Monique Boulay of Lafayette to express my sorrow for the young citizens of her city being victims of this senseless crime. I want to take this moment to reassure our citizens that we are working with officials of the Mall of Louisiana to dedicate the necessary resources to fully protect the patrons of the mall. We cannot let this incident take away from one of the most valuable assets of our community, and we'll do what is necessary to protect it. Events like this remind us of why it is so important to have a strong law enforcement presence. For too many years, our police department was underfunded, understaffed, and underappreciated. Just this week, the Metro Council approved the largest pay raise in the history of the Baton Rouge Police Department, which will now make them the highest paid in the state and allows us to grow BRPD's ranks. It is also important that we invest in our community efforts. My Office of Violence Prevention is working with data-driven approaches that have worked in cities around the country to reduce violence through education and workforce training, particularly with the youth in our community. Over time, these programs will lead to good results. But today, we are drawing a line in the sand. If you're engaged in nefarious activities, gang activities of any kind in Baton Rouge, we will find you, we will arrest you, and we will lock you up. You will no longer be allowed to terrorize the law-abiding citizens of this city and this parish, or anyone else in this jurisdiction. I have reached out to our state and federal partners who have made direct contact with senior leadership at the FBI and the Department of Justice. We're asking for any and all help we can get to help us protect the citizens of Baton Rouge, eradicate gangs, and any other nefarious people we have in this city. I want to ask the citizens one more thing before I turn it over. Do not stereotype or pigeonhole or profile all our young people. I spent my entire life ministering to young people as a coach and a teacher. 99% of our young people in Baton Rouge, whether they're black, white, red, blue, Baptist, Catholic, are law-abiding citizens, and they're just out there trying to make it and doing the right thing. So please, we don't need that judgment. We just need your prayers. And I want to end with this. It doesn't seem like it by how things are written or things are said or what was done. Our officers, the sheriff, BRPD, all our partners, our violent crime, our homicide rate is nearing 20% down in East Baton Rouge Parish in the last 16 months. It just don't feel that way. But just one murder is one too many. Thank you and God bless.
Someone asked me outside, what kind of word would you speak, or what was the first thing that came to your mind? And mine is brokenhearted. I think that represents the great citizenry of East Baton Rouge Parish and Baton Rouge and all this metro region. Anytime we lose someone, our hearts are broken. And we're here today not only to speak about what we're going to do, but also to remind our citizens that we cannot live under the bondage of brokenness and fear. We're here to pray for the families that have lost a dear loved one. And we're here today to say we're ready for that to end. I think all of us in this room would agree that we're ready for that to end on a permanent basis. And we're ready and willing to stand together as leaders. It's incumbent on leaders to step up in crisis. And you see leaders before you today. This morning, I had an opportunity to make a direct phone call to our good friend, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. And as I spoke with Mike, and of course, he was completely heavy-hearted, as you would expect him to be, super family man. And his pledge for Louisiana is unwavering, to make certain that we do whatever is necessary to put the full force of the federal government with us and with our leaders. So I salute the Speaker as he reminds us of the shooting in Shreveport and now here in Baton Rouge, that Kash Patel and others in federal government are ready and willing to work with us and to make certain that we do everything that we possibly can to step forward. My second phone call was to the Mayor, Sid Edwards. And Mayor, it's always great to work with you. Your heart is in the right place. I'm thankful we have a mayor that loves our citizenry, but yet stands for righteous acts. And today we have to say what is evil is evil. What we've experienced and the heaviness you feel in this room today is evil, and we have to stand against it. And so as we move forward, we must come together in unity. So Mayor, we're here to support you. The mayor asked me if I would then step forward and call our good friend, Governor Jeff Landry. And without hesitation, he picked up the phone. And as we began to discuss where we are and what we were doing, of course, every time I picked up the phone and called the governor, especially on issues like these, his unwavering support. What we've seen in the movement in the city of New Orleans is great, and we're thankful for that. But we need his help right now in the city of Baton Rouge, and I'm assuring we're going to get it. We are asking for task force participation, what he has sent forth before, to come again to Baton Rouge to make certain that we have the boots on the ground and the necessary leadership to move forward with these that have evil daily on their mind, to make certain that we go against gang violence and that we treat it as such. You know, also, I called Mayor Dustin Yates, and Dustin's always, thank you, Mayor, for receiving my phone call, and we are unified on this matter. How could we not be? So in my final words, I want to say this. The days of treating gang activity like a social symptom are over. We're now treating this insurgency as it is, and we will meet it with the full and unmitigated weight of both the federal and local authority. And right now, I hope some of the thugs on our street are watching this press conference. And I want to say to them, although they could continue in their ways, I want them to hear this. You have no idea of the unity in this room and in this city. And right now, you have no idea of what's coming your way. Thank you for having me today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for being here. I want to especially thank our leadership, Metro Council, see y'all in the room, and many of who came out to the scene yesterday. Of course, our mayor and governor. Thank y'all very much for your support. What we saw unfold yesterday was an extremely tragic and senseless act of violence. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims, their families, and our community as they're recovering. But what we also saw was how well equipped your Baton Rouge Police Department and all of our partners are to handle incidents on this type of scale. The collaboration was seamless and well executed. I have to thank those partners. From our Baton Rouge Police Department, the homicide detectives, major assaults, special investigations, CJIC, SWAT, East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office, VCU detectives and SWAT, the Louisiana State Police, the St. George Police Department, FBI, ATF, HSI, District Attorney Moore and his investigators, the medical response from the St. George Fire Department, Baton Rouge Fire Department, and East Baton Rouge EMS and Our Lady of the Lake Hospital, and of course our partners at Crime Stoppers. At 1:22 yesterday afternoon, shots rang out from the food court area of the mall. A BRPD officer assigned to the mall and an East Baton Rouge Sheriff deputy were in the area and ran towards the sound of that gunfire without hesitation. They were able to quickly secure the scene, begin rendering aid and calling for assistance. The quick actions of our law enforcement and medical professionals surely helped secure the scene and save lives. Tragically, Martha Elizabeth Odom, 17-year-old female from Lafayette, lost her life in that shooting. Donnie Guillory, a 43-year-old male, is still in the hospital undergoing surgery and is in critical condition. Right now, I'm ready to announce the arrest of Markel Lee, pictured behind me. Markel is being arrested for first-degree murder, 5 counts of attempted first-degree murder, and illegal use of the weapon. Our detectives worked throughout the night, drafting an arrest warrant for Lee's arrest and executing a search warrant at his known residence. Lee turned himself in to BRPD earlier today. We are now asking for the public's continued help in locating another suspect. See if I can get that up. Suspect pictured here, who we will also release in a press release, is wanted in connection to the shooting. If you recognize this individual, please contact BRPD or Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP. You can remain anonymous. We have already received numerous tips since yesterday afternoon, and we continue to ask for those tips to come in. The other subjects that were reported that were detained yesterday have been released for now and are pending further investigation and more information until more arrests can be made. I want to turn it over to East Baton Rouge Sheriff Sid Gotro, whose team was instrumental in helping us, and I can't thank him enough. Sheriff.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening. What I want to address is in this news conference is what's already been said, but it was the overwhelming, unwavering, and immediate response by all the first responders that he's made. I want to begin by recognizing the coordinated efforts of all responding agencies, including local, state, and federal partners, as well as the leadership present here today. Incidents like this require a uniform response, and what we saw was exactly that. Agencies working together seamlessly in one shared priority, protecting lives and restoring safety. At the time of the incident, we had a community policing deputies who were working and nearby. Actually, one was working in Dick's Sporting Goods, which was directly across from the food mart, and that's why us in Baton Rouge City were right there, had deputies and officers right there. Without hesitation, these officers responding, deputies responding, they immediately moved towards the scene and were among the first to arrive. We also had a deputy patrolling nearby who responded within moments and joined that initial response. I want to say too, and I've been told this by the ones that responded at first, from the very moment that incident took place, it wasn't just all of us being there to stop the shooting and help those that have been wounded. But there was actually patrons of that mall that was trying to administer first aid at that particular time. And there was also mall personnel as well. So shout out to them because they saw what was needed and they jumped into action as well. In addition, deputies assigned to our industrial properties crime unit and SCAT unit, which is our street crime unit, were in the area and responded quickly and began assisting with securing the scene and supporting operations. Deputies from the Gardner substation and Klein Peters substation were also in the area and responded to assist. The quick response is also a reflection of how this area is structured. While most of the mall property is within the city, the anchor stores and their parking lots fall within our jurisdiction, the sheriff's office. Because of that, we maintain a presence in and around that area, and our deputies were in position to respond immediately. They did not wait for to be called. They heard and they moved towards the danger. Within seconds, our personnel were on the ground, entering the area, rendering aid to the victims and assisting with evacuations. They didn't wait for direction. They saw and heard a threat and they acted. That's what first responders do, and that's exactly what this community saw yesterday. Our deputies arrived. They encountered civilians and male employees, which I already said, who already went rendering aid and assistance. We are grateful. Once again, I'll reiterate it. We were grateful for the courage and willingness to step up to help in a critical moment. As additional units arrived, East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office deputies helped us establish a perimeter and began coordinating efforts to secure the scene and protect the public. Our response included a wide range of divisions working together in real time. That included SWAT, air support, including our helicopter. And I will say that between us and the state police, we had constant aircraft up in the air to help secure the area and see what was going on in and around the mall. We also had our drones. We had several drones in the area at that time as well. SCAT, gang intelligence and enforcement, homicide, crime scene, uniform patrol, community policing, and multiple detective divisions, including property crimes, financial crimes, and others. While much of what the public sees is that immediate response, I also want to emphasize the work that has taken place behind the scenes. Our gang intelligence and our enforcement division has been actively developing information related to this case, including gathering intelligence, assisting with surveillance efforts, and supporting ongoing investigative work. We're doing that with BRPD. Our personnel have remained fully engaged in this investigation, including assisting with the execution of search warrants and operational efforts led to in this case. What I can say is that this has been a coordinated, thorough, and ongoing effort involving multiple agencies working side by side, and you're going to see that continue till this crime is solved. Our deputies were there in seconds, and they stayed engaged every step of the way, and I'm extremely proud of the men and women in the sheriff's office and Baton Rouge City and everyone else that was there, because they all worked together as a team, and I can't emphasize that enough. I'm proud of those who already were there and took immediate action. I'm equally proud of those who responded, supported, and had continued to work this case around the clock. Their professionalism, urgency, and commitment to this community were evident from the very first moments of this incident. I also want to thank all of the partner agencies who responded and worked alongside us. This was not one agency's response. This was a unified effort, and that is exactly how public safety should operate and will operate in this parish. When we work together, we're stronger and better and safer, and we become equipped to protect the people that we serve. Most importantly, our thoughts remain with the victims and their families and everyone impacted by this incident. Events like this affect an entire community, and we remain committed to doing everything we can to support those affected and ensure accountability. Our priority remains the safety of this community and the protection of those we serve. Thank you.
So, good evening. So no parent should have to take their child away, whether they live here or not, or live somewhere else, in a black bag. I cannot imagine this family picking up their lovely child and bringing them home with due respect with a procession, bringing them back to Lafayette, their hometown. I just can't imagine the feeling that a parent has to go through with that. No parent should bear that. No parent in Baton Rouge should bear that from any gun violence. This one surely is close because it happened yesterday and it's close to home. It is different than others, but it is still violence, and it's one that we cannot stand for. My condolences to that family. Prayers go out to the family young man in the wheelchair who suffered some extremely serious injuries. He's recovering, having head surgery, probably will have more. Can't imagine what he is going through than the others that were affected, and those just all around that saw what happened in a mall where you're there to enjoy yourself on a spring day. So a few things I want to say. You wouldn't believe I have the opportunity to be the DA and to be around these men and women, but it's mainly the men and women that are behind your cameras that you're not seeing. It's the guys in uniform. It's the guys in the coats and the ties. It's the guys that work their tails off all day, all night, and you never see it. And it's from every agency. I don't care whether they're local, federal, state, district attorney. If you were here yesterday until 2 o'clock in the morning when the search warrants were going through, when you saw these men and women working their tails off to try to get to justice for these families and for the community, it makes you feel good during an extremely bad time. And I've had the fortune to see that happen time and time again. Baton Rouge is a unique place. We have our own problems, but I can tell you, as speaking with the governor for an hour earlier today, we have a completely different situation than in Orleans. Our teams, federal, state, local, you name it, all work together here. We do not have any issues that other places have across the country. That is not an issue for us. And I'm really proud of that effort. We have the honor of speaking for a child who lost her life because she can't speak anymore. And the district attorney is the one that gets to speak for that child who can't speak. I want to caution you, however, these men and women that are working this case, it is very difficult, very arduous, and very tough times right now. You have to give them time and the ability to work this case. It is going to take them a long time. Trust me, nobody wants to come forward and say what happened, to give information on another co-defendant. These officers have to work this case from the bottom up. They have to work it hard. They have to wait for phones. They have to wait for evidence. They have to wait for DNA. There's a lot they have to do. They do not want to get ahead of their evidence. So I'm asking you for their for patience for them to be able to do their job. As the DA's office meeting again with the governor today, we spoke about issues in Baton Rouge, and that is juvenile issues, truancy issues, education, gang group involvement, and how can we stop that? Because that is really where all of our violence stems from the home, from the family, or the lack of the home and the family, from a child not having respect, easily to take someone else's life because of no fear. We have to change a lot of things. Is there a way to do so? Yes. The mayor has started his initiative, or will start soon, the Group Violence Initiative. If you recall, back in the 2000s, 87 to 2000, we had a group violence reduction strategy. And at those 4 years, we had the lowest numbers of homicides ever in the city of Baton Rouge. We can get back to that by having a unified strategy. And that's what I hope is for. And I think that you'll see that happen again with the mayor's leadership, and then also with the efforts of state police and the federal authorities that we had, as we had last time. And to me, that's what our goal should be. Leaving here today is not only continue to work on this case to find not only probable cause, but to find proof beyond a reasonable doubt to take care of this situation and make the public safe and let them know that they're safe. But also, our challenge is to go on forward and to stop this from happening in the future as we've suffered enough loss. And Governor, thanks for your pledge and your promise to continue to help our office as we struggle through times with economic times. And we appreciate the effort that you're leading in the legislature in that regard. And that means a lot to us and will mean a lot to these cases in the future. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon. I spoke today with FBI Director Kash Patel, with U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche. I want to recognize U.S. Attorney Kirk Wall, who is here today from the Middle District, and Special Agent Charles Coger is here as well. And of course, all of the agencies that have been working on this case. You know, yesterday we witnessed a deeply troubling act of violence, and an act that seems to have been driven by what we have been plagued with, neighborhood gang disputes that seem to want to spill out in our public places, putting innocent people in danger and taking the life of an innocent young lady. So I want to be absolutely clear. This conduct is not going to be tolerated in this state. It is unacceptable. And the hard truth that we all need to acknowledge is that these individuals who were either arrested or are going to be arrested did not arrive at this moment overnight. Many started down this path as juveniles. And I'm going to say what many people are afraid to say. The beginning of this failure was at home. Parents have a responsibility to raise their children, to guide their children, to intervene with their children when things go wrong. When we find ourselves arresting juveniles for violent crime, somewhere along the way, those parents' responsibilities have failed. The arrest of that young man is their parents' failure first. But that responsibility doesn't just end with their parents. Our neighborhoods, our families, and our communities must also no longer turn a blind eye to this kind of violence. If you allow the kind of criminal behavior that is going on in some of our neighborhoods to take root, your neighborhood is no longer safe. And you are contributing to that problem as well. But I want you to know, to those neighborhood gangs, the consequences of yesterday are going to start being felt immediately. The second failure, of course, is on the individual who chooses to engage in that conduct, in those acts of violence. And there is no excuse, none, to bring gang disputes and personal grievances into a common public area where innocent people, one was killed and many were injured. If you decide you want to do that and commit those acts of violence in this state, we are going to hold you accountable. We are not going to allow our streets, our schools, and our public spaces to become your battleground. Those who brought this violence into our public spaces and into the lives of our ordinary citizens, innocent people, I want you to know you are now the criminal problem we are focused on. You endanger families, children, and people who were simply going about their day. In the state of Louisiana, along with our law enforcement partners on both the federal and local level, are going to start responding swiftly and decisively. Now, I want to talk directly about our judicial system. You know, judges hold enormous power, but they are not social workers with a gavel. They are the final gatekeepers of public safety. And I'm talking about both at the state level and especially in the middle district at the federal level as well. People say, we cannot arrest our way out of this problem. And they are right. But we can sentence our way out of this problem. So let me be clear. Judges who continuously release violent offenders back on our streets, who fail to use the full authority of their office to protect the public, are going to be held accountable. When judges refuse to enforce boundaries or consequences, they're not rehabilitating anyone. What they're doing is abandoning young people until a tragedy like this becomes inevitable. And you know what? That's not justice. That's negligence. That's masquerading around as mercy. The people of Louisiana expect judges to uphold the law, to apply serious consequences for serious crimes, and to prioritize the safety of our citizens above all else. If a judge chooses to hand down weak sentences to known violent actors, if a judge decides to turn violent offenders loose with minimal restrictions, if a judge fails to treat gang-driven violence without the gravity it deserves, I am going to call them out individually, publicly, clearly, and directly. And I mean even the federal judges as well. Because when a judge fails to impose the appropriate consequences, that failure should not fall on the state. It should fall on the judge's shoulders. And when they fail to do their job, they put innocent people in danger. I'm asking the legislature for a full, while the session is going on, for full and holistic review of our sentencing laws. I will support, again, reforms that ensure judges have both the authority and understand the obligation to keep dangerous individuals off of our street. We are no longer going to accept complicity on our bench. Everyone, including judges, will be accountable for public safety. And we're not just, and while we're talking about accountability in action, I'm asking that in coordination with local, state, and federal partners, including all of our law enforcement components, the National Guard, ATF, FBI, US DOJ, I'm asking them to prepare for a targeted warrant sweep focused on the individuals in the neighborhoods that these individuals came out of, or anyone who's connected to this incident. And I'm hoping that in the coming days, we will be executing warrants on every outstanding individual that is tied to this activity. Adults who enable juvenile offenders need to face consequences as well. And I'm sure we don't have a shortage of outstanding warrants here in Baton Rouge. And I am asking them to begin executing them. This is not a one-day response. I expect this to be a sustained effort. To the people of Baton Rouge, in every neighborhood affected by this kind of violence, I want you to know we are drawing the line. We are going to protect innocent lives, but we are going to start imposing some consequences. And we will not allow neighborhood gangs to terrorize our communities or go into public spaces and injure or kill innocent people. If you bring your violence into public spaces, you're going to face immediate and direct action from law enforcement across every level. As you can see, we're unified, we are coordinated, and we are committed. And I want to emphasize that public safety is a team sport. It means that the members of our community have to help us as well. It's fine to see police officers in uniforms, but you do just as important of a job as they do by giving us the information or letting us know about activity, criminal activity, so that we can stop that activity before it gets to yesterday's tragedy. I do not want Louisiana to be defined by lawlessness. And quite frankly, I want us to be defined as strength, the strength of our communities, and by our resolve to protect people. Thank you, and I'll take any questions that you all may have. I guess maybe we should start from left to right.
Left to right, only on topic right now.
Governor, did Mr. Lee give any indication that, did he confess when he turned himself in? And also, what was his demeanor?
Yeah, so we're still early on in the investigation. He turned himself in with his attorney, and to my knowledge, did not really give any statements. Everything we got comes from exhaustive investigative efforts by our detectives, which led us to be able to draft an arrest warrant, which was signed by a judge to place him under arrest.
And then let me remind everyone, this is an ongoing investigation. So a lot of the questions that I'm sure you'd like to ask and get answered will not be able to be answered because it is an ongoing investigation. The other thing too is, and I think Hilla spoke about that, is that these types of investigations are not solved, in today's digital world, like a TikTok video, right? Or like one episode of Law and Order. These are very complicated cases, and quite frankly, we want to give our law enforcement agencies the time necessary to put the case together so that the district attorney gets an arrest is one thing. The prosecution is what we're really after. Okay? And in order to do that, we want them to have the time necessary. And I ask for the patience from the media and the public to give them that time so that they can put a case good enough for the district attorney to go into court and to hold those accountable for their actions.
Governor, you talked also a lot about judicial reform. Do you believe that any judges potentially were lenient with the suspects, that either the one that turned himself in or the ones that are at large?
Well, here's what I'd say. Y'all do a great job of investigating all kinds of information, and the courthouse is full of data, okay, on judges. In fact, we're dealing with judges in New Orleans right now that just continuously led these people back out on the street.
The governor, specifically to this case.
Listen, what I'm telling you is the continual action of that has led to this case, but yet no one is out there holding those judges accountable when they just continue to allow. It would not surprise me as the people who are involved in this, before it's all over, don't have an extremely lengthy rap sheet. We probably won't see all of the juvenile misconduct that occurred because we've hidden that from the general public. It's a debate that we had in the legislature last year.
Governor, you're talking about judges and wanting to hold them accountable. As you know, here in Louisiana, it is against the law to have cameras in courtrooms. Do you support that happening, being changed in order to hold these judges accountable?
I think there's plenty enough data, okay, in the judge's final decision. We don't need to turn our courtrooms into some media live circus. Y'all do your job and go to the courthouse. You know who those judges are. You see these folks working day and night, arresting the same people. Y'all see the juvenile violence that goes on again and again. And yet over the last 5 years before I became governor, or 8 years while I was attorney general, I watched nothing but hug-a-thug policies in this state. A watering down of our criminal justice system, not quite holding those accountable, forgetting the victims rather than than in focusing on the criminal, like the criminal was innocent, even after proven guilty. This is the kind of violence that we end up with when we engage in those kinds of policies. And I'm asking the legislature to go back and look at the laws. In fact, people that go into common places and decide to engage in that kind of violence, we should put them away for life. I'm done with them. It doesn't matter how old they are. Somebody has failed. It's not the government's job to raise these people. It's common sense not to go into a public space with a gun and start shooting around blindly. We got 18,000 acres at Angola. If it's up to me, I'd send them all there for the rest of their lives. Next.
Chief, this is a question for the chief. So the governor and State Senator Evans are the only ones who have used the word gang in this. Are the suspects, are the people, the guy arrested, is this a gang thing? And if so, what gangs are involved?
So again, y'all are asking a lot of questions that I'd love to open our playbook and open all of our technology and give it to you, but we don't want to do that right now. And what I can say is that this definitely probably has some ties to social media beefs, maybe gang related stuff, but we're still at the beginning of this. We just arrested him today. And so we're going to keep giving over that information.
But is it fair to say, because there was the mayor came out and said, do not pigeonhole or stereotype young people in our city, but the word gang is being used. Is that a fair assessment? Or are you guys as officials, as leaders of the city and state, are you guys jumping the gun and labeling people who may be or may not be connected to this?
Yeah, so I think talking in general, we've been beating around the topic a lot lately. We do have some gangs in Baton Rouge, and those people we're going to be targeting. We worked with the district attorney's office last year to sentence people to in a grand jury get indicted for gang activity. We're going to continue those efforts for people that label themselves as part of a gang. You're on social media boasting that you're part of a gang. We're going to come after you. It's too early to say what ties this exact shooting happened. We know that this was not a random incident. We know that this was two groups of people that met up at the mall, exchanged words, and then pulled guns. And then innocent people were hit. Whether or not that was gang related or not for this incident, we will let you know at the appropriate time. But in general, in Baton Rouge, what these officials behind me are talking about is true. We have people in Baton Rouge that are proud to represent themselves as tied to certain gangs, and we are going to specifically target those people.
So Chief, yeah, at this time, you say yes or no, whether or not the name is gang activity, yes or no?
I was asking the chief, the suspects. Yesterday there were, excuse me, 5 people detained. Now we have 1. We keep asking the public, send us pictures, send us videos. Can you give us some more? How many people? Maybe not an exact number, but some more information to the public so they can call it in and tell you guys what's going on.
So the people that we had detained yesterday were definitely people of interest. They were definitely involved in some way or the other. They, refused to answer questions. They lawyered up. We didn't have anything else to be able to hold them on. As this investigation continues, we work with our federal partners to have those ballistics analyzed by DNA. We do have all the rapid things that they are helping us to get answers quickly. We'll be able to give more answers. What we do know right now is Mr. Lee was arrested this morning. We had an arrest warrant for him. He has been arrested for first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder, 5 counts of that. And we also looking for this other suspect that we put a picture out of. If we can get his name and his identification, we might be able to start building a case against him as well.
How many guns were used? Did Mark Lee have any priors?
He has a extensive criminal history in the juvenile court system.
Governor, you talked about judges. Can you give us something specific? We as media, a lot of us, we've all done our jobs as far as showing which judges keep dropping the ball, but what can actually be done to them for dropping that ball?
Well, I can tell you, the people of the state, I believe it was last year, strengthened the Judiciary Commission. We are hoping to get some new members on the Judiciary Commission by the end of the year. It was unfortunate. We had one of the members that I appointed, former Supreme Court Justice Chet Traylor, got off because of what he believed was lax investigations by the Judiciary Commission on judges, and one pointedly being the one over in Orleans. I can tell you that the Supreme Court they have started to take action. In fact, in the last year, I think they've suspended or taken at least one judge off the bench. I would continue to support their involvement in this. I think it's time. I mean, for a long time, judges seem to operate without any oversight. And so I would encourage the Supreme Court to continue to watch. I mean, we've got judges in Orleans right now where 50% of those brought before them in a judge trial seem to be acquitted. And I don't think that NOPD or the Louisiana State Police are that negligent in the cases that they bring before these particular judges. Look, a lot has been said about what we've done in New Orleans, and right now New Orleans is enjoying a 100-year low in its crime, and people have said, well, you know, Governor, can we do the same thing in Baton Rouge? I would tell you that we can't do the same thing in Baton Rouge as New Orleans because they're two different cities. But what I can tell you is that we have begun and we're going to accelerate taking some of the practices and things that we learned in the city of New Orleans and bringing them here to Baton Rouge. In fact, I was talking to Colonel Hodges earlier about making sure that we retrofit some of our state police vehicles here in Baton Rouge, the same way we've retrofitted them in New Orleans to deal with street crime and chasing that are going on, and either hijacking or stealing cars or whatnot. But we seem to have been able to do a good job in New Orleans. We'll bring that down here as well. We intend to be an asset to the Baton Rouge Police Department and the Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office. We're not here to take over anything. We're here to assist them and make sure that any gaps in law enforcement or tools that we can bring to bear, we'll bring to bear here in Baton Rouge. I know that our federal partners, I can't speak for the U.S. Attorney, but I know that they have been just excellent with the FBI and ATF in helping us bring federal charges to some of this activity, which seems to abate or change the conduct of individuals, because when you go to federal prison, you go for a long time. It's one of the reasons that we took parole out of the playbook last year. And so again, we're just going to crank down and focus down here in the capital city.
Governor, do you foresee
Hold on.
this?
Who go?
Governor, do you foresee
Where you going? Go ahead.
Chief, this is for you. I wanted to just get a little bit of clarity. First, the four that were released, are they still persons of interest? And then second, do you have any more clarity today on how many actual shooters there were at the same?
So right now we have one person in custody. It's really early in the investigation still. We have to give the detectives time. We have to give them time to do their job when they're combing through that much evidence and surveillance video. We got to give them a chance, and we're going to give you those updates as we got it. The update we have right now is we have that one person in custody, and we are looking and asking for the public's help to identify this second suspect.
And are the four still, is it fair to call them persons of interest still?
They're still persons of interest, and that we might have charges for them at a later time.
Yeah.
2 years ago,
Go ahead.
said of criminal justice laws that made prison sentences longer. Are you considering any sort of additional special legislative session or anything like that?
No, we're in a great session right now. I'm sure we've got bills that we can look at. I am going to be working with the leadership in the House and the Senate and asking the chairs of the respective committees to take a look, especially using yesterday's tragedy as an example of where we could be strengthening some laws. Again, I think that if you go into a public space and you commit that type of violence, maybe the sentencing is not fitting the crime. Maybe that will hopefully deter it. I think you have one last question.
So earlier today, we got a bomb threat called in Baton Rouge at one of our Jewish synagogues. We responded to that, searched the area along with some other partner sheriff's office and ATF, our EOD experts and bomb dogs, and found that there was no credible threat.
Governor, do you foresee the suspect in this case or any of the other potential suspects facing federal charges?
I don't know. Look, it's an ongoing investigation. I think the chief and everyone has laid it out pretty clear, and I'm sure they're going to be giving more information to y'all as they get it updated. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
It's not here.